Good evening, ladies. Just when we thought it was so over for Solana, suddenly we are so back. In terms of technology, to me, it just seems like Solana is just constantly innovating, constantly improving, and it's just pulling away from the competition in terms of technology. And of course, Vaneck have just now filed for a spot Solana ETF, which is absolutely enormous. If this got approved, I think Solana price would just double instantly. Well, maybe not quite, but that is just insanely bullish. The only thing that was really holding Solana back, as opposed to Ethereum, was that Ethereum had the Ethereum ETF approved and it's going to be trading very soon. And that was kind of one of the few things that Ethereum had over Solana, and everyone was like, Solana's not going to get an ETF for years and years and years. And now potentially, because Vaneck have filed for a Solana ETF, now maybe BlackRock will have a look at this and be like, okay, we can't let them get an ETF before us. We probably should also file for a Solana ETF. So if BlackRock files for it, they have a 99% success rate when it comes to filing ETFs. Now, we're going to talk about whether or not Vaneck's ETF will actually get approved and when it will be approved. But we also are going to go through all the really incredible technology updates in regards to Solana. And, is Solana going to be able to get to a 4-figure price target within a year? Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. Yeah, so from my point of view, like I said, Solana is just getting an unassailable lead in terms of technology and innovation, as opposed to every other chain like Aptos, Sui, like all of these chains, Ethereum, like Aptos and Sui, and these Move and Say and all of this. These chains were like Solana killers. They were going to be faster, or even Phantom Sonic upgrade was going to really challenge Solana and be like, yeah, we can actually have more TPS. But then Solana comes in, or we can be cheaper, even cheaper than Solana. But then Solana comes in with all of these updates, and even though the network is way more used and there's way more users, they're still even cheaper again. So let's first talk about the Solana ETF. So this was filed by Vaneck, like I said, and this is the CEO, or one of the guys in Vaneck, and kind of explaining why he believes, or why Vaneck believes, that Solana is actually a commodity. So if it's a commodity, just like in the fact, so if it's not a security, like in the way that Ethereum and Bitcoin were labeled not securities, then there's no real reason why Solana shouldn't have an ETF. So basically what they're saying is Solana is a commodity, and the reason it's a commodity is because you use Solana to be able to use the Solana network, use the token Solana to be able to trade or to actually pay for the fees on the Solana network. So if it's used like oil is used, or if it's used like gold is used, then it's not really it's not really a security. It's not investing in a company on the premise of getting future profits. It's more like a commodity that you're going to use in order to be able to use a network. So just like in the fact that it's very decentralized, it's actually more decentralized in a Nakamoto coefficient than Ethereum. And so it will be kind of hard for the SEC to completely deny it forever. The Solana ETF is inevitable at some point because, like we said, it seems like a commodity. There's very little dissimilarities between Ethereum and Solana that you could say, oh, Solana's a security, but Ethereum is not for X, Y, and Z reason. However, there are some, it's not nowhere near guaranteed. Some reasons why it couldn't get improved is that the Bitcoin and Ethereum already had 2 years on the CME futures. So there was already futures trading for Bitcoin and Ethereum for years and years. So there was price data in the TradFi world for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's kind of one of the things that the SEC wants before it allows for a spot ETF. And also Chow from Good Game Podcast, he was heard through the grapevine from someone, one of the very important people within the SEC, that the SEC has no intention or no desire to approve any more ETFs anytime soon. So, I'm kind of on the fence of whether this ETF will get approved. It most likely, in my estimation, will be like extended as far as possible and continually get pushed away or eventually denied. But it is inevitable. But if it is approved, it's not going to be approved until 2025. Now, even if it isn't approved until 2025, that's still a good thing. If it's approved, or if it's not going to be trading till 2025, that's another good thing that Solana has to look forward to, and Solana investors have to look forward to. And we can dump our bags on the boomers who are buying it off us for $1,000 per SOL in the Solana ETF. That's kind of how I'm playing it in my head. So the longer it is, as long as the ETF doesn't come after the cycle's over and everything's topped, that's actually a very good thing. It's another bullish catalyst to look forward to. So the moment I saw this filing being filed, I immediately went onto Jupiter Perps and I went into Hyperliquid and I max long Solana, and then I max long WIF as the catch-up play. And this is just completely, something on the side. But, if you do see news really, really early and you're quick, if you see it within 1 minute, you can quickly open a high leverage long and make a quick profit. So you have to be in and out very, very fast and don't hold it then for ages. But, manage to make a little bit of profit there. It's just something that you could be aware of doing as well. So the reason I longed WIF is because if Solana's doing well, if Solana actually gets this ETF approved, WIF is probably going to outperform it on the upside and as well on the downside. It's like a leverage bet on Solana that you can't get liquidated on. So this is a chart of Pepe versus Ethereum, and Pepe is obviously the biggest meme coin, or one of the biggest meme coins on Ethereum. It's kind of one of the ETH coins, and you can see the red circle is where the Ethereum ETF got announced or approved. And you can see how well Pepe did versus Ethereum from that point onwards. Absolutely went vertical. And now you kind of can see the similarities with the WIF versus SOL chart. And we're at the point that potentially Solana gets an ETF approved, which then could mean that WIF absolutely rips again. So just something to be aware of. I'm not saying this is just interesting in the facts that the charts look the same, but there's not a huge amount of substance behind that, and it doesn't mean that the ETF will get approved. But like I said, if the ETF is approved, that is absolutely enormous news for Solana, and there'll be way less flows needed to be able to pump the price of Solana as opposed to Ethereum, which is 500 billion, and as opposed to Bitcoin, which was like $1 trillion at the time. So there's really not a huge amount of reasons to be more bullish Ethereum over Solana. If the Solana ETF is approved, there's really not much left going for Ethereum, in my opinion. Maybe, to hedge your bets against Solana, and maybe like Ethereum has more TVL and more users. And the other good thing Ethereum ecosystem has over Solana, it's easier to build on. Apparently, like building products on Solana is quite tricky for builders, so they prefer to go to Base. So a lot of the SocialFi crypto projects are actually on Base. So like Fantasy Top, Time.Fun, Friendtech, etc., all launched on Base as opposed to Solana. Even though these things could be on Solana, apparently it's more difficult to build on Solana. So yeah, Ethereum has some benefits over Solana, but not 5 times more benefits, but not 5 or 6 times more benefits than Solana, which is the market cap difference between these two chains. Right, the next big update that came for Solana was Blinks. So I'm going to show you this video that Solana Twitter account released, and it's pretty self-explanatory showing what Blinks are. blinks is that someone can initiate a transaction on any website. They don't need to bring you to a new website and you need to pay at that website, or they need to bring you to a decentralized app where you open your wallet to be able to buy something or to send money or to make a donation or to buy an NFT. Now you can do it all within Twitter or anywhere, eventually anywhere that you can share a link, you'll be able to share a blink. So a blink just is blockchain link. So really, really cool stuff. So taking out the middlemen, like here Marty Party says, will make OnlyFans, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, all of these middlemen basically redundant, who are taking a large cut of these fees, because you can just share the link wherever you want, or the blink anywhere you want, within Discord, within Twitter, within Facebook, and someone can then on your own marketplace, you can just set up a blink so someone can pay through Solana rather than through credit card. So you have that option very easily put in there. This kind of shows the innovation that is all throughout the Solana ecosystem. Like, this wasn't just the Solana Foundation making blinks, it was also Helios and other people within the Solana ecosystem all working together, and it just kind of shows the culture when it comes to Solana, always trying to improve at a really, really fast pace. That's something you definitely want to see, and trying to implement something like this with Ethereum was like, it's just too fragmented. It would be too difficult to make blinks for Ethereum, or it's probably possible, but it's just much more difficult. But with Solana, every team kind of works together. So at the moment, you're able to do this with Phantom, Jupiter, and a few other of the, like Magic Eden, a few other of the top Solana apps. They've already implemented this for their websites, so you can be able to buy an NFT directly using a blink or whatever. And another bullish update that Solana came out with recently is ZK compression. ZK means zero knowledge. Basically what ZK is, now forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm not an expert in this whatsoever, but just so I have an idea of what I think it is, it's zero knowledge. So basically, instead of having to actually read the full transaction data, you can just verify it without knowing the full picture of what's going on in that transaction or block of transactions. You can just be able to verify that it's legitimate without having to read all the data. So that makes it like much cheaper and more efficient to do than having to read everything when it comes to blockchain transactions. As you can see, using ZK compression on Solana is reducing the price for developers of certain tasks, like here creating 10,000 token accounts. It's reducing that by 10,000 times, making it 10,000 times cheaper, which is up to 10,000 times cheaper, which is just absolutely crazy for a chain that was already the cheapest chain, or one of the cheapest chains. So, using a blockchain is going to be almost so close to free, it's not even funny. It's amazing, the updates and the innovation that's coming out of Solana. And the other nice thing about this is it's all within the layer 1. Like, we've heard of ZK Sync or layer 0 or whatever, all these kind of layer 2s on top of Ethereum that use ZK technology, but that's obviously on a layer 2. This is within the layer 1. You're going to be able to do this within the layer 1, so that's a really, really cool update for that as well. So like I've been saying since last summer, Solana remains the trade of the cycle, and the Solana ecosystem is the main trade I'm taking for this cycle for so many reasons. And with these bullish updates and bullish technology improvements, it just further increases my confidence. And the only thing that was holding me back before was, oh look, Ethereum has this ETF now. I did say that was a little bit bearish for Solana, or it was just more bullish for Ethereum. But now potentially we could be looking at a Solana ETF, which is just outrageous. Now, where do I think Solana gets to in this cycle? I've done price predictions before and I'm sticking by them. I do think people are kind of underestimating the potential when it comes to Solana. So, still very bullish Sol, still my biggest bag at the moment because WIF has dipped. But yeah, my two biggest bags are Solana and WIF, and they're basically the same trade. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, and make sure to join my Telegram group as well. All right, see ya.